Which job is a lot less fun than most people expect? Video game tester. You aren't spending your time playing completed fully realized games. You are playing the same level of a game over and over, seeing if there are bugs. After reading through this thread for 20 minutes, I've concluded that every job sucks. Zookeeper. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome to be around so many amazing animals and care for them. But the smells are ridiculously, insanely foul. I have a really strong stomach and it's still tough for me. We've had some interns quit over it. I was warned about the smells when getting into the field, but thought, oh, I've volunteered at animal shelters, I know what animal stink smells like. Nope. Not even close. Otters. I don't think I know a single person who works with otters who's not bothered by the smell. They are related to ferrets, so they have super strong musk, way stronger than ferrets, and smear it everywhere. They also eat nothing but fish, and you really can smell it in their oily, gooey poop. Big cats. Out in the open it's not so bad, but I've thrown up in the nighthouses rain shelters before. Huge, 6-pound piles of cat shit all over the floor, with no litter to mask the smell. Unnettered male lions will spray too, like a cat. One lion makes enough spray to make the whole place smell like a cat hoarder's house. Sea lions. I believe big cats were addressed. Demolition. Everyone wants to break shit with a sledgehammer. Everyone is tired of lifting that sledgehammer by 5 swings. Nobody wants to load the broken stuff into bags or a wheelbarrow and take it to the dumpster. I always say the more fun it is to go somewhere, the worse it is to work there, like amusement parks and arcades. Working in an animal shelter. For sure, it's probably less intense than zookeeping, but the amount of people who apply or volunteer expecting to come in and play with cute puppies all day is absurd. We're basically animal maids. You deal with animals of all sorts of behavioral and developmental stages shitting and pissing every fucking where, and then you look over and this fucking dog named Chumbawamba swimming in his water bowl, so you gotta fill that up 6 times and dry his kennel out, and then you go and mop up the cat room, around 10 kittens who want to eat your mop, and also 4 children who are all yelling that there's puke in the floor and I must clean it, now. Not to mention all the extra behind the scenes work that the public never sees. How in the summer, during kitten and puppy season, the shelter built to house 500 max has 750 and I didn't take a lunch or sit at all for any of my shifts for the past 6 days. How the courts force us to put down animals that we know can be rehabilitated, but we don't get enough funding to fight it. How animal control just showed up with the 4th pregnant stray of the week, but intake is full and even double stacked in some cases, so your coworker fosters the cats on her own. Not even to mention the shitty fucking people who do dumb shit and end up getting bit or scratched, and the animal is the one who bears those consequences. I am the proudest shelter worker in the world. I adore my job, even at its hardest. I didn't sit for 9.5 hours today and I found a cat turd in the cuff of my jeans, but it doesn't matter because a bonded pair of adult cats got adopted today. I took 6 applications this morning and the cat in bank 4 with the goopy eye is already looking better, and we sent a mama out to foster. The hard work is always worth it for these babies. Chumbawamba was this silky-coated black and brown hound mix. He was super gangly and tall and had these big OL ears and was a very good boy, but every fucking day without fail, he'd flip his water bowl, even with no tip bowls. So we have him a heavier, deeper bowl. Every day, at least 4 times a day, Chumbawamba got this enormous heavy-bottomed water bowl filled. Held close to a gallon of water. Weighed about 10 pounds empty and was too heavy for me to even really lift when full. Oh, thought Chumbawamba. I cannot flip this big bowl. It's too heavy. But Chumbawamba was an innovator. Instead of just flipping the bowl, he said, what if I got rid of the water? Then I would be strong enough to flip it. So there goes Chumbawamba, diving front paws first into the bowl and essentially digging the water out until it was empty enough that he could flip it. He was a big thirsty dork and I loved him even though he super annoyed me when he dumped his bowls. I'm a marine biologist. I spent the last week measuring defrosted fish heads. Lawyer, no, it isn't like they show on TV. Hey, finally case is before the judge. Crap, the other party didn't show up. Next date that judge has given is 3 months away. Edit. Need to say a few things. 1. Thank you fellow Redditors for the gold and silver. Now I can finally see what our lounge is all about. Now, little bit about me. I am from India and have moved on from litigation to academia. Personally, it was the right decision for me as now I am way less stressed and can work on things that intellectually stimulate me. Having said that, I need to clarify that law is still a very rewarding profession. There is something in it for everyone, for those who want to change the world as well as for those who want to make money. It just demands too much of your time, plus the results of all your efforts are not immediate and that can get stressful. Also, yes, that song Don't Be a Lawyer by Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is pretty spot on. I have seen this question before and then it was Zookeeper at the top comment too. Nice. Anyways, there's this making of Frozen 2 mini docu. Most animators work weeks for a minute of animation of one character, if not less. At one point they decided to leave out a piece that one person had solely been working on. Must be crappy to be part of the credits without being able to say this is my part. Baker. Coming into work at 3/4 am so you can have a 6 am baked goods is miserable. 000U0HY0U must L0 vey the way you smell when G0H0 me. Nope. I go home smelling like burnt oven. Working in a music store, musical instruments. Your days are spent listening to 50 different people play 50 different riffs poorly simultaneously, as if they're all putting on their own concert. Lifeguarding. Everyone expects Baywatch, act, saving lives all the time. But it's usually just sitting there blowing your whistle telling little shits to stop fucking around. Being a character performer at Disney. Don't get me wrong, there are some amazing perks and truly magical moments. I know I'm super lucky and tons of people would love to be in my shoes. But the day-to-day work is exhausting in ways I never thought possible. Guests are ridiculously abusive. I've had things said and done to me I never would have imagined. The company isn't always great, it highly depends on your leadership. And there's so much focus on your body and face, good and bad, that it can be incredibly depressing and difficult emotionally. Plus, you have to accept that there's very little upward mobility. Most people grow out of it, and it's rough to know that one day you'll get too old, or too fat, and you will have to start all over in a new career field. So you constantly are thinking either, 1. What you're going to do when you leave, 2. How you're going to keep yourself there. I personally knew it would be temporary, and I now only work there seasonally while I have a normal career. But Disney has a way of sucking you in. Edit. Hey, my first award. Thank you so much. Paleontologist. You don't get to work with full dinosaur skeletons and do all kinds of awesome expeditions. You're mostly sitting at a desk looking at some pictures and logging stuff on your computer, maybe examining a fossil occasionally. If you're lucky you can go on a real dig, and OMG spend hours in the hot sun dusting off rocks. Cybersecurity. Bro, the movies do us no justice. Hacking is not as fast nor is it as easy as the media makes it. It's a great field but you spend a lot of time researching or watching paint dry, especially in the gov side. Edit. I'll never be able to answer all of your questions. I'll answer some PMS as I get a chance. Edit 2. No more questions about the field. Getting spammed. Game master at an escape room. It's the same repetitive script, resetting the same stuff, giving clues and hints about the same things. The patrons are often competitive families who argue, obnoxious impatient 13-year-olds, college students who have been drinking, idiots who break shit and touch shit that I specifically told them not to. They never remember your initial instructions. If something gets broken during one group, you have to hurry and fix it before the next group. Working at a Charles Dickens fair is interesting, but not incredibly fun. It is hard to stay in character, and people get so mad when they see the Alice in Wonderland area. Yeah, we know it's not Charles Dickens, but we can't have a kids' play area in the world of Oliver Twist, okay? Lol, the kids' play area is a coal factory. Yelp review for Charles Dickens National Fair. Bah humbug. It was definitely not the best of times. It was the worst of times. So little to do. I was constantly telling the staff, please sir, I want some more. If you go, do not go in with great expectations. Google Street View driver. You're all alone for 8+ hours a day, can almost never take a break, need to constantly be on and focused, lest you crash the $25,000 Subaru with $60,000 plus worth of camera equipment on it. You end up becoming an amateur meteorologist to keep track of weather patterns and cloud cover, and in my experience there are a lot of people who just get insanely upset at you, at Google, and the job in general for a wide variety of reasons. I enjoyed myself when I did it, but it was nowhere near as glamorous or fun as I or my friend's family assumed. Edit. Thanks to everyone who expressed an interest in my summer job from almost 10 years ago. I'll just answer the most asked questions here real quick. Pay. $15 an hour, but contingent on hours driven, which were themselves dependent on clear weather to ensure optimal image quality. Why not drive every day no matter the weather? Google got around this problem by making you re-drive routes whose pictures turned out subpar. To prevent people double billing by driving the same easy route constantly, you also had a weekly quota of unique miles driven, so no double dipping. What could you do in the car? As long as the camera and the mapping software, edit. Mapping software, thanks for the heads up, was running properly, I was on my own. I listened to music, the news, and lots of books on tape. I could stop for short bathroom breaks whenever I felt like it, and had an hour guaranteed for lunch whenever I wanted to take it, which usually amounted to eating in the car on the side of some lonely rural road 90% of the time. Who would ever think this was fun or glamorous? All I can say is, back in 2012 most people I talked to were pretty excited, myself included, about getting the chance to do any work with Google, let alone this cool new project that would let you see what any place on Earth looked like at street level from the comfort of home. This was the era of Google Plus being a potentially exciting new thing, of Google Glass being the future of tech, and overall it was a different time. That's why everyone I knew thought this was a cool gig. Video game testing. I've been working in the game industry for 6 years now, and teaching for 2. Testing video games is thought to be just you just play games all day? LOL, but it's actually very specific and arduous. First of all, there are a bunch of testing methodologies such as load, soak testing, white room testing, version testing to name a few, but the most common one is functionality testing. Functionality testing is so if I walk into that corner with the shotgun in my inventory, I can clip through the wall, but if I have my M16 in my inventory, I don't clip through. Being a writer. I always thought it was my absolute dream job. But the only job I could get after college was working in a content mill as a blog writer. I used to work 70-hour weeks staring at the computer in a basement of an old bank writing bullshit articles about the dangers of mold, fence cleaning, and why you need a commercial awning, and the dream turned into a nightmare. While I still write occasionally, I am now working as a communications person, so it is a bit less heavy. Bar bouncer. Hours of tension and boredom interrupted by moments of adrenaline-fueled fear for your life. Then some asshole pukes cheap booze on your shoes. Edit. I was 19 when I started, and I thought I would be getting paid to meet lots of girls and listen to live music. Which I did. I also had knives pulled on me, endured threats on my life, got my nose broken, not even in a fight, and stood around and did nothing most of the time. You don't get to relax, though, because you're constantly looking for trouble. Awful job. Worked at Dr. John's, an adult shop, from midnight to 8 am. We had a lot of fun customers but a lot of total creeps, plus the management were all crazy. Edit. A few quick stories. I was 18F, 5 feet 0 with red hair. Had a creepy guy stare at me from behind the racks for a while, so I got uncomfortable and went to the back room. The security guard radios me when the guy wants to check out. He bought all barely legal and redhead fetish videos. About 45 minutes later the phone rings and I answer. No one replied, so I asked if anyone was there. Can you hear me? That sort of thing. Hang up. Phone rings again, same thing. That's when I learned that customers would call just to hear your voice. I had a 19F come in and say that she was a preacher's daughter, and I ended up walking her through the store explaining things. She was a lot of fun and spent most of the time blushing. An older man bought a blow-up sheep with noisemaker, and a gallon of lube with pump as a gag gift for a friend. I don't know that many people who would spend over $200 on a gag gift. Working the night shift, we got a ton of drunk people who were usually harmless. We were also about 10 miles from a nasty strip club, so we got a lot of their employees looking for outfits or shoes. Sometimes they would come in with random men and the men would spend a lot of money on them. The assistant manager got caught changing the prices on items she wanted to buy and then taking her 50% employee discount on top of it. She spent like $300 or something in one day and walked out with what should have been $1,000 in merchandise. The security guard on duty that day got fired. They pressed charges on the assistant manager for theft. A month later, the manager got charged with tampering with a witness because she tried to get the security guard to say stuff that wasn't true. The owner said the employees were supposed to refuse service to anyone who was gay or transgender. We never did. Owner would get drunk and log into our online camera system and mess with cameras so security guards couldn't watch the sales floor. I write adult fanfiction as a side hustle. After a certain point it's just like writing a paper, except you have to keep thinking of different synonyms for a penis. I do closed captioning. While I joke that yes, I get paid to watch TV, it's actually very tedious. And if you don't actually enjoy the programming, you're being forced to watch something you don't care for. Or worse, if it's something I do enjoy like a long-form drama, we usually chop those up into 15-minute increments and split between everyone so I only see chunks and not always even in order. It actually ruins the show for me. Edit. Wow. For a thread about my job not being fun, did not expect the response for interested parties. To summarize the questions, anyone who knows proper grammar and spelling can pretty much work the technical side of closed captioning. For live writing you have to be a stenographer, which you need to train for with an associate's degree. If you're looking to do side transcription work, I'd recommend ordering a foot pedal online and looking into freelance sites such as Rev and Upwork. Accountant. Everyone thinks it's all fun and number crunching. But the constant stream of women throwing their panties and wanting to bear your children is honestly exhausting. Acting. All the ones we see on TV and movies are the 0.0001% of incredibly lucky and talented people who manage to thrive in a hostile and overcrowded industry. And even when you are working, the actual job itself is 99% sitting on apple crate in hot makeup waiting for some grips to move a lighting fixture. Then you say 3 lines over and over again for an hour, and then you rap. Seeing all this makes me feel like I don't want to have a job, but instead live off fish. As in catching and eating, it's my favorite thing to do, not the job of a fisherman. Park ranger. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but a lot of days it was less talk about cool animals while wearing your ranger hat and more the toilets are overflowing again. Go clean the septic tank filter and stir the tank with a shovel. With a little bit of hay, there's a methed out guy down by the bridge. Can you convince him to leave without killing anyone? All for the low price of $26,000 per year with a college degree. Edit so more people will see this. I hate the idea that this comment might dissuade anybody from becoming a park ranger. These jobs are so varied, and I just happen to work for an underfunded agency with too few staff. Honestly, I still loved this job and would have kept doing it forever if a higher-paying outdoor environmental job hadn't pretty much fallen into my lap. Being a park ranger taught me so much, and most importantly, I got trained as a wildland firefighter, which is still my favorite part of my job. If you've always dreamed of being a park ranger, please go for it. Toys R Us. Not around anymore, but I'm sure this applies to other toy stores, though few that they are. It is still retail, and in this case it involves people's kids, so of course the parents are twice as entitled to have to deal with. Edit. Thank you, Lord Tachanka on YT, for your energy tithing. I look forward to growing as gelatinous and as all-encompassing as Akira from the attention. Edit. I rescind my earlier assumption that Toys R Us was closed. That is what I get for listening to rumors. It was shut down where I was from originally. I now see that it still exists in most of the US, Canada, and certain parts of Asia. Merry Christmas, Black Friday to you all. Video game developer, non-indie, they're notoriously overworked, especially during crunch time. The field is highly competitive too, so I imagine if you have the slightest issue with work being your entire life, it wouldn't be hard to replace you. Voice acting is also pretty brutal. Voice actors generally don't get paid very well and they're straining their throats or whatever. Well, I'm a scientist. I don't know if people usually think of that career as fun, but I think people think it's a lot more, eureka. And a lot less, this data has to be manually processed for 600 hours before I can analyze it. Librarian. It's not all books and being quiet. There are also spreadsheets. Flight attendant. 1. You are on call, on reserve, forever, have a terrible schedule, have no life, and make no money for 5 to 10 years. 2. While you work for peanuts, you can't afford to use your flight benefits in any substantial way. 3. Then, when you finally get a chance to use your benefits for a trip, you have to fly standby, which means you aren't guaranteed to get on the flight you want. 4. Then, if you do make it out of town, you better have like a week off so you can make damn sure you're back in your base city in time for your next work shift. 5. Did I mention there is an act of U.S. legislation, Railway Labor Act, that allows airlines to exploit so you don't get paid for certain work hours that you actually need to be working? For example, FAs don't get paid for boarding, or any time the plane is at the gate. Worst job ever. Edit. Typos and clarity. Working in a flower shop. It's just like any other retail job, but people constantly tell you how fun your job must be. Also, helping grieving families chose funeral flowers is not fun. Managing a dog hotel. Breaking up dog fights, dogs shitting in the lobby, and the occasional awful owners. Edit. Thanks for all the upvotes. Sad. My most popular comment is about my job. Lol. Being an extra in a movie. Now, it can be super fun. I especially love historical and post-apocalyptic, sci-fi, fantasy type stuff. But a typical day on set wasn't what I thought it'd be when I started doing it. Often we have to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning to get to holding, and if you're a minute late to check in, sometimes they'll kick you out. Then we sit around in holding with sometimes hundreds of other extras, and we're usually sitting there for a good 3 or 4 hours before they start telling us to get ready to film. During this time we go through long wardrobe, hair and makeup lines where they reuse clothes, unless you bring them yourself, brushes and makeup without washing them. When we finally get to film, it's often the same mundane motions over and over, exceptions of course, and those are always fun. Then we either get shuffled around or go back to holding. Several more hours pass, we go film again. Hungry? You get lunch 6 hours after your call time, and a usually meager supply of snacks. In between takes it's more standing around, often in heat or rain, or we all get shuffled into cramped spaces to wait. Days on set are often more than 12 hours, and I know someone who had to be on set for 26 hours straight. They can legally hold you there until they declared filming is done, so don't make plans for the next day. Not to mention that you rarely see yourself in the final cut. I'm not trying to bash other background actors or the film industry, because I've met lots of awesome people and gotten to do some pretty cool things. For example, interacting with main actors in scenes, running around in the woods with fake guns, or being a zombie. But when I did my first job as a teen, I definitely thought it would be a lot different. ETA. Like others mentioned, I'm not part of the SAG union, and extras who are do indeed get treated better, more perks. Also, it may be different in Hollywood. I've only worked in Georgia. I've also been a stand-in, and I like that a lot better because you're treated as the crew rather than, well, as extra.